Welcome to TryABA, where today's video is all about exam prep. So if you're looking for ways to start, you're looking for help to start studying for the test, you're in the right spot. So, like in my intro video that is also about the exam prep, look for tips and tricks. I'm going to follow that same pattern where we're going to pick a section of the task list, give a practice question, talk about it, and then I'm going to set you a challenge as always. So that being said, today's section we're going to focus on is section A.2. So being able to explain the philosophical assumptions underlying the science of behavior analysis. So as a friendly reminder, it would be selectionism, determinism, empiricism, parsimony, and pragmatism. So here is your practice question. Take a look. Feel free to pause the video if you'd like some time to answer. You do you. A BCBA practitioner is looking at her data and graphs and believes that her baseline data appears very random. However, she knows that the baseline data isn't actually random because of which philosophical assumption of behavior analysis? A, determinism, B, pragmatism, C, Darwinism, D, experimentation, or E, behaviorism. Okay, before I give you the answer, let's dive and take a look in a little bit deeper at the question itself. The question is clearly asking about philosophical assumptions. It was written out very clearly. There's no vagueness, there's no question. This is the task list section that this question is definitely targeting. Now, next step. Is there an answer that we can immediately rule out? Yes, there are two that we can immediately nix. The first one being C. Darwinism is not a behavioral term. Get rid of it. Gone. Bye. The second one is actually E, behaviorism, because yes, it is a behavioral term. Yes, it is in an ABA and everything that we do. There's probably another section, actually there is another section in the task list that talks about it, but it is not a philosophical assumption. Okay, so that leaves us with three potential answers. So let's think about the question again, and is there a key word or phrase that will help us in getting to that answer? For me, that phrase would be, quote, data isn't actually random. So going back to the answers we have left is pragmatism, experimentation, and determinism. So I know that pragmatism looks at something that has value or is true to the extent that it leads to successful outcomes when practically applied, right? So that really doesn't kind of help me there. Experimentation, it requires the manipulation of independent variables to see the effects on the dependent variable in order to demonstrate that functional relation. Doesn't really ring a bell yet. And then determinism states that events that occur in the universe do not happen, quote, out of the blue. They occur in an orderly and predictable manner. Well, drum roll, the answer is determinism, because that out of the blue, that random component, right? So I hope you all got it right, but let's dive in a look at it again. So the definition refers to the philosophical concept that all events, including human actions, are ultimately determined by previously existing causes. So it suggests that there is a cause and effect relationship between events. So my flashcard or SAFMED definition was always, the world is an orderly and lawful place. So keeping that in mind moving forward when you're thinking about determinism. An everyday example that you might see or think about when thinking about or trying to explain determinism, or better understand it for that matter, let's take the change in seasons. So when the season is changing from fall to winter, the leaves on trees outside begin to fall. So rather than thinking the leaves are falling by accident, you should assume that something, so the temperature changing, colder temperatures, was the actual reason which resulted in the leaves falling. They just didn't fall by accident. A more clinical example that I know that I'm faced with fairly regularly is I'm walking into a home and a staff member working with a client observes them engaging in, let's say, property destruction, and then will look at me and report, "It came out of nowhere." The whole phrase, "it came out of nowhere," is the equivalent to the random piece in today's question. So what will I do? I will, in that situation, collaborate with the staff. I might coach them, might get my ABA brain on and say nothing happens out of nowhere. We might brainstorm and assess and look at the actual behavior, maybe the antecedents and consequences, what happened. In other words, I'm going to take some more steps to either work with the staff to reframe that or to coach them and train them up a little bit on looking for those other patterns, and then developing some sort of assessment to look at the actual target behavior identified. So to wrap it up, essentially, determinism means that we assume events are related in ways that can be investigated through scientific processes. Without determinism guiding us in our scientific practice, it would be next to impossible to discover those functional relations or those cause and effect relationships between events, because we would just be happy to accept that things happen for quote unquote no reason. So I hope this helps you understand determinism a little bit more with looking at some content as well as a practice question. So my challenge to you is to develop a response for when someone inevitably tells you that a behavior, quote, came out of nowhere. Good luck. And if this was helpful, please leave a comment below. Make sure that you subscribed as I work to develop more practice tests and exam prep content.